Welcome back, everybody, to the channel where we make cupcakes. Or no, that's another one. This is the one where we build rockets, and this so happens to be a stupid rocket. Okay, now if I remember correctly, last time you were here, we launched this top section here into space. No, not that top section. That top section. This guy right now is floating in space, just chilling there. So this episode, I'm going to teach you how to launch a rescue vehicle because he can't get back down out of space. He doesn't have any thrust or anything like that. So we're going to learn a little bit more about orbit mechanics and orbital maneuvers and how to dock two spacecraft together and how to deorbit, which is always fun. I like to use aero-braking. It's like when you smash into a windshield. No, never mind. It's not like when you smash into a windshield. Okay. So, as I said, this thing right here is all lacking proper thrust and maneuvering fun stuff. So we'll move the battery out of the way. One of the biggest things to be able to dock a craft is RCS. So you put that guy there. And you put the battery back. And this is pretty much everything you're going to want while in space. Except for the nozzles to move. Because, you got the RCS, you might as well fire it out somehow. So what you do is you find your center of mass, which put 4 below it and 4 above center of mass. As long as your center of mass is pretty much centered between the nozzles. They look like horns, less like nozzles. I don't know. Anyways, so you go like that and you got that. But those don't really move you too far. Those are for like when you're, I don't know, 100 meters away from your target docking craft. So we're going to want something to move us in a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little teeny tiny tank right there. We'll turn off center of mass because it's not applicable anymore. And we'll put this little itsy bitsy tiny thruster right there. We could go with this guy right here, but it's not necessary. I mean, we're still only working with like 1.5, maybe 2 tons. Let's see how much this thing weighs. This thing only weighs half a ton, and overall we were only at a ton anyways. So, like that. Now, before we just had barely enough fuel to get the initial spacecraft in there, which was missing the RCS ports, and didn't have this whole other engine on there. So, we're going to have to add a little bit more to this. So we're going to take out these side ones and start over. This time we're going to have 4 rockets. Okay. That's if it wants to attach for me, which it never does because it hates me. There it goes. Alright. You know what? This rocket doesn't get cupcakes at the end of the day because it hates me. Alright. So we put those on there. 4 rockets plus a central rocket. Should be more than enough to get this thing right where we want it. Now, in a future episode, I'm probably going to show you guys how to do asparagus staging, but for now, I'm just going to do it really quick here. If you can keep up with it, awesome. If you can't, actually, no, I can't because I screwed up because I put those in for you. I'll teach asparagus staging later. A different video. Not later. Just a completely different video. Ignore the words coming out of my mouth because I can't speak today. I don't know why I can't speak, but okay. So, 4 engines blast. They go make fire and stuff. Then the decoupler thingies decouple. Then we have the center one to finish off, getting us into an orbit. Then we have the maneuvering one to maneuver us in the orbit. Then we have RCS for the docking. And you can also use RCS for the deorbit and for orbital adjustments that are relatively small. So, everything looks good. And just so I don't get smacked by you guys, I'm gonna put one of those on there. And I like to put that right up there with those 4. Make sure staging's all correct. I'm just gonna go through real quick here. Do I want to keep that engine on there the whole time, or do I want to ditch it so RCS has... Yeah, I'm going to ditch it so RCS has a little bit of an easier time at the end of the day, so put another stack separator right there. Adds a little bit of length, but the stack separator only weighs less than 1/10 of a ton, so we'll be fine there. But we're going to want another stage 4 that separator so it doesn't separate when we launch that engine. Okay, we'll call this episode 4, Orbit and Docking Tutorial. Yay for us. Save that. I'm just going to go over real quick and double check that everything is the way it's supposed to be. And yeah, it looks good. So now we launch. And we wait in this awesome loading screen that everybody loves. Don't you guys just love this loading screen? I love this loading screen. It makes me want to have little children on my computer. And that was creepy. Not sure why I said that at all. This is an awfully long loading screen though. Kinda disappointed in my computer that I spent so much money on. And there we go. Okay. Now we have Bill going up to save Jebediah and getting him back down to Earth. Although we don't have parachutes to land. So I apologize. We're going to go back to the space or the vehicle assembly building. And we got to add parachutes for the rescue. So without parachutes, they're just going to fall. And that's not a rescue at all. So we go over here to utility. I'm going to use the radio mounts because we have a docking port in the way. I think 4 of them should be able to hold the weight. We'll definitely be able to hold the weight of that. I mean, semi-deployed drag is 1, fully is 500. Yeah, definitely be able to withstand both of their craft at the same time. The only thing is can the docking nodes hold together? Because in this game, docking nodes aren't exactly the strongest connection points. When they're this small, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever. But when you get into the larger aircraft or spacecraft, wow, brain, hello. But larger spacecraft, what happens is you get a lot of wobble and stuff like that out of docking ports. Alright, so we throttle up here, and there we go. Remember, staying below 200 meters a second up until 10,000 meters. Then we start turning towards 90 degrees, and we have some pretty fun rotation going on here. That's fun. I like it when my rockets rotate for no reason. Just rotate it back. There we go. Bam. Still going up at a pretty good pace. Yes, we are. Oh, going a little faster. Keep that slowed down as much as we can. We're flying up fast. Bill just wants a cupcake. I don't think Kerbals can eat cupcakes. I think it's like when you feed chocolate to a dog. I think it might kill Kerbals. Not sure though. I'll have to wiki that. Stop the rotation. Slowly bring us down to 90. And those are out of fuel. Release them. Blast out of their range. Okay, come up here to orbit map as I always like to. Now, we want to get that guy at that 75, 80 kilometer height, but then we also have to be moving sideways at that 2,200 meters a second. So we're doing them both at the same time like last time. Started at 10,000 meters. I almost said kilometers. 10,000 kilometers. Yes, we're going to the moon apparently. But we're not turning until we get there. Alright. Okay, we switch to orbital countings. That way we can keep track of our overall speed. See if we can't pull speed now. Get a little bit of extra. I only want to see what's in my stage. By clicking stage only, I can watch the fuel in just this stage. I want to try and get as close to that as possible, but not on it. There we go. Now, of course, remember, we're trying to grow the opposite side. So if I want this imaginary periapse to go out, I need to burn from apoapse. Burning here will only extend it sideways like that, and that's pretty much useless. So we're gonna happy-go-lucky, fun, Blah blah. There we go. Some real time warp. Time warp for men. None of that 4 times crap. Alright, we're at our apoapsis. Now we're gonna burn towards the I wanna go faster. And we're gonna keep a little bit above. This is kind of a shaky rocket, and I'm not sure why. But we're gonna burn a little bit higher just to keep our apoapsis up. I'm gonna tilt like that just so you guys can see it a little bit better. And we're going and going and going, raising our periapsis. Should be about 2,200 meters, somewhere in there. Oh, well that's interesting. I think we ran out of fuel. And that we did. Well, luckily, that stage will be able to deorbit. Now, our periapsis is still only at 10, but we are nowhere near our apoapsis again, so we come back out to it. Okay. And with this little tiny motor, should be able to nudge it out there. Nudgety nudge, nudge, nudge. And that looks good to me. Okay. So if we look at our blue circle, it doesn't quite line up with the gray circle. The gray circle is Jebediah, the one we're trying to rescue. He just orbited. He didn't really care about any of this other crap. So we're going to do the rest of the crap for him. Now, with these rings, you can actually see how we're going to catch up to him. But when we set him as target, okay. Now this, you get all these little cool little doohickers and all this kind of stuff. I like to pay attention to the purple ones because they're easier to see. So, when we are here, Jebediah is going to be there. That's quite a distance away. That's like quarter of the planet away. So what we're going to do is we're going to shrink our periapsis. When you shrink your periapsis, you're going closer to the planet and your circle is smaller, so you end up going faster than your target. And our target's pretty far ahead of us. I mean, if we select target, they're moving, they're clocking pretty good speed here. So we need to shrink our periapsis, and you do that. No, I don't want target, I want orbit. There we go. We do that by shooting off a little bit right here like this. And remember, we don't want to go back into the atmosphere, so we're just going to shrink it down as close as we can. There we go. Now, if I time us all right, when we come to this side with the periapsis, we're going to shrink the apoapsis down as well. And this is so we can catch up to Mr. Jebediah here. So if we can't catch up to him, he can't get his cupcakes and nobody's happy. So if Jeb's not happy, world just sucks. Alright, there we go. Now we want to shrink this one as well. So we gotta flip around backwards and slow down. We're slowing down in our orbit, but since we're making it smaller, we're actually speeding up. And there, we got a combined intersection where both orange and purple. Oh, I went a little bit too far there. Bam. Okay, so it's 75.1 and 75.092. That is ridiculously close to a perfect circle. I could dip it down even further to make this video a little bit quicker, which I'm thinking I'm going to have to because this video is taking up some ridiculous hard drive space at this point, so I'm going to risk a little bit here. I know, naughty me, tisk tisk. And shrink it down to 69. Yay, 69. That way we are traveling faster than Jeb, and sometime here in the future we'll catch up with him. Here we go. Because right now our intersection says we're at 1,036 kilometers away. We hit that intersection, next time is going to be 897. So we just got to keep waiting. And we're waiting. So while we're waiting, we'll be talking about cake. And the fact that I absolutely adore cake. Like, it's so fluffy and sugary and chocolate. You guys like cake? I love cake. But most importantly, I love steak. If you can find yourself a good steak, or somebody that can make you a good steak, keep that person around. Because that person is awesome. Alright, so our next intersection is going to be at 739. Let's try and speed things up here a bit. Well, I don't think I'll need to change much, actually. Now that I look at it, we should be relatively close to a good intersection here soon. As you can see, our distance is doing nothing but shrinking. We're not slowing down anywhere. So we should be getting pretty close soon. The only problem is with docking like this is literally you have to get in really close. And I mean like inches close. And right now we're still talking 564 kilometers. Or if you look from that spot on the planet all the way to the middle of that ocean, which is a huge distance that we're trying to close. And we're trying to close it with a little tiny can that weighs about 2 tons, so... And we're both traveling at about 2,300 meters a second, which is pretty dangerous. I mean, we definitely won't be able to do this by going in the opposite direction and just running into them. Pretty sure everything would break then. Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit closer here. 377 kilometers. We're losing about 100 kilometers each time around, it looks like. And unfortunately, I can't make it go faster because we're below 120 kilometers, which is Bold Twinkies. Bold Twinkies. So they went bankrupt. Like, Hostess went bankrupt and stopped making the Twinkie. Then, now they're making them again. I was hoping that the Twinkie I have hidden in my room was going to be worth millions in the future. But apparently, no. Apparently, they're just going to keep remaking them. It's bullshit. Alright. I think after this one, what we'll start to get is 182 kilometers. I want meters. You want to be within 0.5 meters before you really start to use RCS and stuff like that. And we still have fuel left, so we can do some larger things. But remember, to catch up to something, make your circle smaller. To let that thing catch up to you, make your circle bigger. And do that with an ellipse. Okay, what are we at now? 21.2 kilometers. Alright, now is where the fun part comes in. This is where you switch to target mode. Alright, see, we're only moving that much faster than our target. Yay, we're moving faster than our target. Woo! Okay, now it looks like we're starting to stretch back out. And looks like we got ahead of them, so we want to stop now. Now, what you do is you point towards the one with the X's, and you make the target speed 0. You want that completely zeroed out. As close to 0 as possible. Bam. Then you point towards the purple one, which is your target, and start flying towards him. And you also got to keep your periaps up above. What do we got going on here? Let's turn off apoapsis. We got 14, and it's shrinking, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and now we're getting the slide, which is where we want to stop and get ready for another slowdown. For slowdown, you get yourself aimed up, warp over to where you're really close here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is slow down so we don't run into the bastard. This is relative velocity. It's taking the comparison of our two velocities and zeroing it out. So we're essentially going the same exact speed, in the same exact direction and everything. So, boom. Now we want to head towards them still. Now what do we got here? 1.3, 1.2, and we'll go for a 0.5. That's always pretty much what you want. So bam. When we get there, we will be 500 meters from Jebediah. Bam, just like that. So we come here into staging, so we can actually see what we're doing now. And I'm going to get rid of our relative here. And kind of ease it out, and bam. Alright, now face towards the target. Since we're so close, we only want to move in at about, I wouldn't go much more than 10 meters a second, because that's going to shrink pretty quick. And right there. Alright, now we have to, I'm going to switch to docking so I can use RCS, so we can catch back up. Bam. We are going the exact same speed as Jebediah and everything. Now if you remember, we had Jebediah face south for us. And if you look with the camera, his docking port is facing straight south. So we're going to right click the docking port and set that as the target. That way we have an exact target. Now what I'm going to do is, with RCS off and switch to the correct mode, so I'm going to point exactly north. That way my docking port is facing perfectly up. There. Now if the RCS is balanced perfectly, what I should be able to do is always switch your camera to chase so you can understand what direction you're trying to go in and everything. So we're trying to go up, which is shift. So we shift up. Now keep in mind, we're still rotating around the planet at some ridiculous speeds, but since we're at such a similar speed to Jebediah, it looks like we're in standstill. When we really are. I mean, you can see the mountains passing underneath us and everything. So we get our upness to just about perfect. You can tell with the purple thing, luckily, here this time. Remember, it's Newtonian physics, so you got to cancel out any movement you do. Now we want to move right to get under them. Or just lined up with them. We're not really getting under or anything like that. Just enough stage on and look at our electric charge. We got plenty of power. Okay. Nope. Now you can pretty much eyeball and see which way you're drifting, that sort of thing. And just line it up. Now hit W to start moving in. You only want to move in at about 0.5 meters a second. And then you just do very slight adjustments. And luckily, these docking ports are magnetic. And then from here, you should be able to just coast right in. At the last second, I like to slow it down to 0.2. And boom. We are connected. Jebediah and Bill are now together. And our quote-unquote, this is technically a space station. We can extend these panels even. Rotate it so it can see the planet. And the way we put those RCS things on there, they're pretty much centered for the whole thing to work. Look at that. We got ourselves a little miniature space station that is soon going to be in the dark. So, take it in while you can see it. And now we're going to deorbit. Now, if you remember, for deorbiting, the easiest way to deorbit is to do it from your high point, which is 106 kilometers up, and our low point's 80 kilometers up. So we want to do it from our high point because it's easier to shrink a number that's already pretty small. It's easier to get this to 0 than it is to get that to 0. So let's go ahead and get over to the high point in our orbit. Now we still have some fuel in that thruster down there, which I'm going to utilize for this deorbit. Okay, now remember to shrink the periaps. We want to slow down. Right now we're killing all the velocity and fuel. We're pretty much taking all that fuel we used to get up here and turning it to nothing. Now, a cool thing about this is if you can get your periaps to below 30,000, so 29 right there, what we get is what we call air braking, which is a super convenient way of stopping this vehicle. And you can look up here, our altitude is dropping quite quickly. Now this is going to rip off the solar panels, but I don't care because that looks cool. We bring it up to times 4. This video is getting pretty long. That's cool. Expected it to be a bit shorter, but long videos are cool too. You get to hear me ramble more. And then we get to see that cool re-entry heating effects that they added in, I think, 0.19 or 0.18. I don't remember. But this is 0.21. We're all high-tech and updated. Because we're awesome like that. And we don't play with outdated games. Not here. We go for full versions. Anyways, here shortly, well, we can also, while we're in here like this, we can ditch. The engine that doesn't want to ditch. Decouple. There we go. There. Now we don't have an engine, and our parachutes are already out. So, when we hit the atmosphere, hopefully, my parachutes don't rip this thing apart, but we're going to face down like that. The parachute should be coming out soon. I think it needs 0.1 atmospheres to pull the parachutes out. At this point, I'm going to slow us back down to normal time because I don't want physics ripping apart the two cans from the docking port. And you can clearly see the two ships that we had. They're very similar to each other. It's just this one has added RCS at this point. Oh, and parachutes. Alright, coming down, coming down. You can see our speed dropping now instead of increasing. Normally when you get closer to a planet and stuff like that, your speed actually increases, but in this case, since we're going through the atmosphere, luckily this planet has an atmosphere, since we're going through it, what we're getting is drag. Yep, that's the word I was looking for that whole freaking time. Drag. We're getting drag, just slowing us down. But like on the moon, or Mun, in this case, the Mun, or in Minmus, when you get closer and closer to it, you go faster and faster. Alright, so those won't fully deploy until 500 meters. And I think 4 shoot should be just enough to land these guys safely. And remember I said, by the time you get down to 500, you really want to be about 60 to 30 meters a second, but I don't think we're going to be able to get that, so we're going to have to luck of the draw kind of land this thing. Alright. Whoa. Yep. Jebediah is dead. And 2 of our chutes ripped off, it looks like. Maybe? No. I had it in acceleration for too long. I should have came out of acceleration at about 1,500. When you're in times for acceleration like that, physics doesn't work right, and you end up breaking apart like we just did. But since we're fully deployed, we'll bring Bill back, I guess. Bill can have all the cupcakes. Jebediah is dead. He won't miss them. But luckily, since we're just gonna end all these flights after this episode in preparation for our landing, we'll actually encounter with the moon to get in orbit around the moon, and then after that we are going to land on the moon. Here we go. 3.1 meters a second. That is plenty slow enough to land Bill. He can get out. He can let go. And we'll plant a flag to end this episode. Alright, there goes the flag. Boom. I get to have Jebediah's cupcakes. Lucky for you. There we go. And we'll just end it there. And next time, like I said, we'll build a rocket that can get out to the moon. And then we'll encounter with it, get a stable orbit around it, then look into how to land on it. Until then, it's been great.